I'm Katie. I'm the general. I'm kind of far away. Let me move over here. There we go.
Come on in.
Closer to the party.
Hey.
I'm Katie. I'm the general manager here at ADAC, and we are so excited to welcome you to our third day of Discover ADAC Fall Market. Thank you all for being here. Again, we have fun things in store, so make sure you know what's going on for our third presentation later on this afternoon. But for this presentation, you're in for a really, really good treat. So a couple other things while you're here shopping this week. Make sure you go check out all of our new showrooms and our newly renovated showrooms and our 242 design studios, the 12 firms that are now calling ADAC their home every single day. So all of the list of those showrooms and design studios are in this event guide, so check that out. Be sure to have some fun with us on social media. Use the hashtag DiscoverADAC. Our handle is @ADAC Atlanta. And all of our media partners, our showrooms, and our speakers have their handles in this nifty little guide as well. So have fun, tag us, we'll reshare, and show everybody how much fun we're having this week in Atlanta. I want to thank Steve McKenzie for the stage decor today, and all week, actually. All of the pieces came from ADAC, so if you'd like to know where anything was sourced from, there's a resource sheet in the back of the presentation room. We also have magazines for you today from Modern Luxury, so grab those as well. Lots of fun things you have today. I want to thank Fabricut for bringing us today's presentation. We are so grateful to have them as a partner with us for Market. I want to thank our media partner today, that's Modern Luxury Interiors Southeast now, not just Atlanta, it's the entire Southeast and the Atlantan. After this presentation, we're going to go upstairs to Suite 307 for a reception with our panelists and with Modern Luxury and Fabricut. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to a dear friend and the publisher of Modern Luxury Interior Southeast, Jenna Muller.
Thank you, Katie. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? Good. Well, welcome to Bold and Unapologetic Design. Get my little clicker. As she said, it's presented by Modern Luxury, the Atlantan, and also Interior Southeast. Thank you to Fabricut and ADAC for always putting on such a great week for Discover ADAC. Katie and her team are incredible, and they're also incredible partners of ours. For those of you who don't know me, I am Jenna Muller. I'm the publisher of Interiors Southeast. We have 9 interiors titles across the country, so excited to be here and put on a very bold presentation for you guys. In the beginning of this year, Modern Luxury entered a transformative new era, a new chapter that National Interiors platform was reimagined as we go beyond just luxury living and luxury interiors, blending national influence with local deep roots, which brings us here today to ADAC, pulling someone from New York and local who travel, and they both travel lots. As we stepped into 2025, we did it fearlessly and boldly, so we thought bringing together some of interior's most luminary designers was a perfect way to come in to Discover ADAC. Please welcome Vern Yip and Sasha Bikoff. When we were preparing for this, I asked them what unapologetic design meant to them, and you'll see their quotes up here. And I'm going to introduce them, and then they're going to give them a little bio about themselves so we all get comfortable and then start having some fun. Sasha, you're celebrated for your exuberant and maximalist interiors. You mentioned unapologetic design takes the meaning of being confident in your aesthetic and being very unique. Introduce yourself to everybody. Tell them that you flew in early this morning.
Hi, I'm Sasha Bikoff. I have been up since 5 a.m. and I'm not a morning person. I actually don't get out of bed until 9 o'clock normally, but I have a new baby, so life has changed for me. I'm so happy to be here in Atlanta and at ADAC, and I can't wait to talk about unapologetic design with you all and get this conversation going.
Wonderful. Vern, you of course are a New York Times best-selling author, beloved television personality with HGTV, TLC, Magnolia, and HBO Max, to name a few. You bring infectious warmth and worldly sophistication to every space. You said unapologetic design is about being authentic as well, fully embracing your specific functional needs in a unique aesthetic. Please let everyone know a little bit about you and what's exciting coming up for you.
Oh yeah. Well, hello everybody. Thank you so much for being here. It's always such a treat to be in what I call my hometown now. So, yeah, I've been in Atlanta now for nearly 30 years. Oh, actually, over 30 years, right, Craig? That's my husband back there.
Wave. Hey.
Wave hi. Yes. We have two teenagers. We have a 14-year-old and a 15-year-old. Like Sasha, our kids are 14 months apart, and I told her that getting up at 6:15 doesn't end until they leave your house. You still got to get up in the morning, make sure they have all their stuff packed for school, and send them off, and drive our kids to school. So we love calling the city our home. I have a new show that you can stream now on HBO Max called Home Reimagined. So if anybody wants to see that first episode, please log on to HBO Max and stream that. And I'm here to celebrate the upcoming launch of my third book, Color, Pattern, Texture. And that book really is about what I consider a designer's three most powerful tools, and teaching everybody how to really utilize color, pattern, and texture to tailor your home to uniquely reflect you. And then I also have been with Fabricut for over 12 years now. Just launched, I think, our 13th and 14th collections, which hopefully you'll get to see upstairs in the Fabricut showroom afterwards.
Awesome. All right, y'all ready to get into a bold conversation? All right, here we go. All right, what unapologetic design means. Bold design can mean many things, however that you bring it to life. Vern, I'll start with you. Knowing you outside of the spotlight, you enjoy a low-key lifestyle, not always dressed in a suit. With your beautiful family, how do you bring your boldness to all your projects and turn that off? Because when you're just in the casual beach mode versus bringing beautiful projects like they're looking at, how do you bring boldness into each of your projects?
Yeah, Jenna is incredibly diplomatic. What she is trying to say is that normally I dress like I'm basically homeless. But
You
today,
said it, not me.
Yes, it's true. It's true. I'm attached to one pair of terry cloth shorts that my husband is begging me to throw away. But no, I think that the most important tool for any designer to really kind of help somebody embrace their authentic self is to really be a good listener. Your ears as a designer are your most important tool. And, I think that's a bit counterintuitive. I think a lot of people would say, no, it really, should be your eyes or whatever. I think it's your ears, because what you're really trying to do is ask the questions and then really receive the answers from clients regarding who they really are. Nobody is one-dimensional. Nobody is one style only. We're all unique. We all have unique perspectives and points of view. And my job as a designer, I always feel, is to fully immerse myself into who those people are, to get them to be bold enough to really accept that and not just feel like they have to follow a trend, and then to manifest that in the best way possible.
Very cool. Sasha, you're celebrated for exuberant, maximalist approach to everything that you do. Take us into your world. What are the key elements that make luxury spaces so bold?
So I think bold is an interesting word, because what's the real meaning of bold? And I think a lot of people say, oh, it's bright colors, oh, it's pattern, oh, it's, materials. But I really think if you really understand the root of the meaning of bold, it actually, to me, exemplifies more of uniqueness, a change, a difference, something that you haven't really seen before, something that strikes up a conversation that makes you think. And so for me, being bold is about constantly needing to be inspired and create something different, and constantly needing to challenge myself as a designer, and every project trying to do something different. And in order to really get to that place, it's a combination of needing to seek as much inspiration as possible to get to this place where you can kind of mash up different ideas and cultures and colors and patterns and create something totally unique. I always like to say there are decorators who call themselves therapists, there's ones that call themselves teachers, but I like to say I'm a storyteller, and I'm always concocting all these stories about my interiors, and the plot line is changing, and there's twists and turns to the story, and that's kind of how I roll as a decorator. And I think that that really is what makes a bold interior. I don't think it's you know, the color or the pattern. It's kind of how it all works together and creates excitement and creates a whole new world.
So storyteller with a minor in being a therapist.
Yeah.
Vern, what do you think the key is to making a space, maximizing a space to still feel elevated and intentional, but not overwhelming?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think the word balance is so important in what we do as designers. And I don't think that it's one level of balance for everybody. Again, I think being invested in really knowing your clients will help you strike that correct balance, because there are some, it's not just about what somebody envisions, right? It's also about understanding how they're going to live in that space. Are you going to be meditative in that space? Is this going to be a celebratory space where you're really looking to entertain? Is this a space for, you know, relaxation and alone time? Like, I think it's really important to understand how somebody's going to use that space before you even begin to tackle the aesthetic portion. And that's what helps you, I think, gauge the right balance, is understanding your clients. Because the best compliment that I think you can ever get as a designer is for somebody to come in and say, I feel like you really know me. This feels like the best version of me. It's not necessarily for somebody to walk in and say, oh, that's clearly a Vern Yip space. Like, if it's me putting my stamp on a bunch of different projects, that to me isn't like a level of success. You know, that's almost laziness, right? So it requires you to really kind of understand who your clients are, and then to gauge that balance for them.
So there's not just one element that brings meaning to a project. It's a whole sorts of things that come from the client's expectations, and then you kind of guiding them down the road of bringing all of the elements together.
Yeah, I think so. And I think I also like to really, like, I think it's important that people infuse things that are meaningful to them at the beginning of a project, instead of bringing it in at the end and trying to make it fit in. Start with meaning. You know, I think that's going to get you at the right level of balance, and that's going to create those bold designs that really reflect who those people are. It can be something small, it can be something big. It could be a little jewelry box that you inherited from your grandmother that you've always loved, and that could be a wonderful jumping off point. Or it could be a huge overscaled piece of modern art. I mean, it could be a wide variety of things, but the most important thing is for you to start with meaning, because everybody, you know, there's so many talented people in this world, so many talented designers, so many people who can create an aesthetically pleasing space, a space that will grab you and create interest for you. But to me, that's kind of soulless if you haven't specifically worked to inject that meaning for that person, for the people who are inhabiting that space. Because we famously love to see spaces photographed with nobody in them, but they're not museums, right? At the end of the day, these are the places where people are living their lives.
Well, I'm available for photo shoots if you guys need me. You guys both seamlessly bring in so many layers impeccably into all your projects. You said there's many ways you can define bold. How do you walk the line of being bold versus busy in a project?
So I like to say that decorating is kind of like connecting the dots. So your eye should kind of wander and travel very naturally through a space, and that also, obviously connects to balance. But you want the space to kind of feel balanced and seamless. And if you have kind of a big couch that's this outrageous fabric that's really, really, busy and there's a lot going on, then okay, let's balance it out with maybe some more subdued curtains. And then let's bring it back with the trim on the curtains. So it's all about this like push and pull and this play throughout the space. And I actually don't have a background in interior design. I never studied it. I never worked with a decorator. I studied art history and fine arts in Paris, and I grew to love it. I've always loved interiors. I always say if my grandmother was born in a different time, she would have been, a decorator. But because I have more of a background in the fine arts, I always kind of approach decorating to painting. And you just continue to layer and layer the paint on the canvas. And that's kind of how I approach decorating, and how you create a maximalist space that still feels fresh and clean. I like to use a lot of kind of family heirlooms and antique and crystal and china and Limoges and whatever. And a lot of people are like, well, this is my grandma's, but I don't want my home to feel old and granny. And like then the husband is like, I don't want that around. And then there's like this whole, but if it's done in a way where like the Limoges is kind of, feels very fresh and minimal, and it's like curated really perfectly on a shelf or in a vitrine, where it becomes kind of like this museum piece or object in a room, it doesn't feel like it's old and part of this clutter, how it may have looked, years and years ago. So that's kind of how I tackle on this approach.
So Vern, this room doesn't look like this all the time, I'm assuming?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, this is a home that we have at the beach. And, it was funny because I don't know if people said this to you too, when we were about to have our first kid, I can't tell you how many people said, well, say goodbye to your accessories, say goodbye to having that on the coffee table, can't have
It's
that
all
anymore.
my mother-in-law ever says to me still to this day, and I have 2 boys. Yeah. She's like, silk dining chairs?
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, I'm not giving up my silk.
Exactly. But the thing is, I grew up with beautiful things. It's partially why I'm doing what I'm doing now. We didn't always have money, but my mom had a great eye, and beautiful things don't have to cost a lot of money. So, for me, it really created an appreciation. It really fine-tuned my eye, and so I always viewed it as part of my education. And so when we had kids and people were telling us that, I was like, I didn't grow up that way. I grew up with like stuff everywhere and stuff that was interesting to look at.
You
and
teach
stuff
them
that
not
I
to
could
touch.
And you know that you're going to lose a few things, and that's okay. At the end of the day, things are still things.
Yeah.
So yeah, our home usually does look like that, and our kids are really good about putting things back and refluffing the pillows and.
And that they were trained to do that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, if you grow up that way, you don't know any other way, right? You're gonna go to college and rebel, but that's fine.
It's only a couple years away. Sasha, I saw this, this caught my eye. You did a collaboration with a new outdoor elevated custom. Can you tell us a little about this? And then I want to ask you a few fun questions.
Yeah, so this is a series of game tables I designed with a company called Elevate Customs, and they're indoor-outdoor. They're actually made with the same finish you'd find on a car. And it's called the Bon Bon Collection, and it kind of has this like late 70s, kind of 80s curvy design to it with the rounded edges and the bases. And then the colors, I picked these colors out, which are kind of colors that you may find in the Caribbean or in Miami or something, but they can be done in any custom Sherwin-Williams colors. And I really love them because when I create collections and when I work on things, I really think about the lifestyle around them. And I'm constantly seeing like outdoor ping pong tables, and I'm seeing like people playing backgammon outside. And I felt like there was a void in the market for really attractive looking ones that could be customized to your outdoor space and your furniture and your fabrics. So that's where this came into fruition. And it's been really fun. I just made a turquoise and orange one for a project in Bermuda.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, clearly you look to art and fashion and travel to use as inspiration. Is there one place that you've traveled to that made a huge impact on you and also approach to some of your designs?
Yeah, I would think that the most inspiring place to me is Paris. I lived there. I went to college there. And for me, it's at the center of art, fashion, and design. And I love anything French. I think the French, no one does it like the French. I mean, they make everything look so beautiful, and the way things are merchandised and curated. So I spent a very long time like going to the Marché aux Puces and like teaching myself about design. I lived in Saint-Germain. I had near all the major antique dealers and galleries, and actually lived in an apartment of a very famous decorator, and she lived next door. So I walked into that apartment that she was renting to me, and the headboard matched the fabric walls, matched the lampshades, matched the rug, and it was like this combination of Indian fabrics with French European, like 18th and 19th century. And I just felt so inspired. And to me, I go back once or twice every year. I still shop a lot there. There's always like some kind of French influence or European influence in my work, and to me that's a place that very much inspires me. But apart from that, like I also have a beach house in East Hampton, and also that like just being in nature and the colors and the water and the sunset, that also inspires me too.
Speaking my language on that one.
Yeah.
We've talked about bold. We're going to move into some fearless design. I'm going to start with a fun question for you, Vern. What was the first time you truly took a bold risk, and how did it play off? Did it pay off, or maybe it didn't pay off?
So I was a really unusual kid, as you can imagine. And
Tell us more.
yeah, like for example, I've always loved animals, and ever since I was young, like I had like a bird named Peter who ate dinner next to me, and I always my friends used to always joke that I was like out of a Disney cartoon because animals just followed me everywhere. But like most young boys, I had not sort of developed my own sense of taste yet. But my mother was always so supportive of me being creative, and she was so supportive of anything I wanted to do. And so I think I was probably around 7 or 8, and she said, I'm going to let you design your own bedroom furniture, and we're going to make it. And the thing is, we didn't have a lot of money. We grew up at sometimes not even having money for heat in the house. And I grew up outside of Washington, D.C., so it got cold. But, she just really believed in supporting my creative endeavors. And so for whatever crazy reason, I got it in my head that I wanted all of my bedroom furniture to be chrome. And so I designed a chrome bed with these rising towers on either side, and it bridged across, and these matching chrome ottomans, and a chrome place to store all my books, and then I painted my room gray. And I remember my sister walked in, and it's not cheap to make. My mother had this made for me.
Oh, wow.
And I still have some of those pieces.
Tell me you have pictures of this. That we can.
I still have some of the pieces, actually. I
Did
still have
Peter
the
get a
ottomans.
chrome cage?
What's that?
Did Peter get a chrome cage?
Peter just flew around the house. But But I remember my sister walked into my bedroom and she said, "Oh, congratulations, you live in a bank vault." But I think it is sort of like the beginning of being like, it's okay. It's okay to want something that maybe others are not going to approve of. You know, if it brings you joy, if it brings you happiness, if it really underscores who you are, then that's the most important thing, you know.
I love it. Chrome. I think you should do that again. Bring it back. What's one fearless design move you think everyone should try at least once, Sasha?
I think that everyone should try to implement like a lacquered or high gloss room at least once. I think that it could even be just a little powder room, or you can do a dining room, but I think that it's kind of a luxury finish that will almost anchor the space and create just like a whole vibe in itself and an intimate surrounding. So I think if architecturally it works with your space and it works in the place in which you live, then I would try it. I mean, if you're in a beach house or somewhere more casual, maybe it's not for that space, but in a primary residence and some kind of cosmopolitan city, I would try it.
If you were gonna do lacquered walls, would you paint the ceiling, the fifth wall, or no?
I always paint the ceilings. I never forget a ceiling. To me, like if you have walls that are wallpapered or paint, a white ceiling kind of feels almost unfinished, and it, I think, brings too much attention to the ceiling. So I always have some kind of accent color that you would see in the wallpaper, or the colors of the walls continue up along with the finish.
I just glared at my mother. I told her she's got to paint the ceiling. All right. So, Vern, congratulations on your third book.
Thank you.
I proudly display your first two, Design Wise, which is frequently used in my home because it is focused on home's most critical measurements, how high things should hang above the floor. My husband doesn't use it for the TV. That TV goes wherever he wants. And then, of course, your Vacation, the second one, that teaches readers how to create no-hassle homes. And then this third one, Color, Pattern, and Texture. Tell us a little bit about it and how this whole thing came about for your third book.
Yeah, so, all three books have this, common DNA. Design Wise came out in 2016, and by that point, I had already been on television for 16, almost 17 years. And, people asked me for the longest time, like, why did it take you so long to put out a book? And it took me so long because I don't like to put out things into the universe that don't have a purpose. Like, the world does not need more stuff just because we want to create it. Like, I like to problem solve. And when I was looking at the landscape of design books that were out there, they primarily fell into one of two categories. First category was, packed with useful information, but that useful information was often buried in paragraphs and hard to get to, and you really had to sort of commit from beginning to end. And, at that time, our kids were small, and, I was just like, the only time I had to myself was like sitting in carpool, like waiting for the kids. And like, I needed to be able to like access information quickly. So that was one category that I saw. The other category were these beautiful design books that were filled with just images. Very, very little information, mostly just images. And those are so pleasant to go through. Like, I find those really relaxing and enjoyable, and you can be inspired, but there's no takeaway, and oftentimes they become just vanity tomes for whoever decided to put that book out. And so with Design Wise, I thought I would do something different. That book, as Jenna is previously said, is all about the most critical measurements for your home that were universally applicable no matter if you lived in a studio apartment or you lived in a 30,000 square foot mansion. These were rules that applied universally across the board, such as how high should your toilet roll paper holder be? 26 inches.
It's a
from the finished
resource
floor.
guide. It is, like, I don't know how far it should be off the floor. It should be 62 inches. Okay, that's what Vern says.
Well,
and that's
you know,
worked
it's
out.
a lot of those measurements are standardized because our furniture is mostly standardized. Unless, you know, even if you're an NBA player, if you buy your dining room table, it's still going to be somewhere between 29 to 31 inches tall, right? I mean, you could customize it, but other people probably aren't going to have a very easy time using it. A dining room chair is typically going to be 19 inches from finished floor to the seat. So, you know, those kinds of standard measurements tell you that the dining room fixture over your table should ideally be 66 inches from finished floor to its lowest point, because at that level, it still does what it's supposed to do, which is illuminate the surface of the table, okay, illuminate the room, but it's also high enough that people seated at that table can see the people that they're conversing with. So it's just very simple, basic information like that. So with design-wise, you know, we had all the most critical rules, but given to you in bullet points or in graphs. And then there was a second part of the book that was just beautiful pictures so that you could see how those rules were applied. And Vacation at Home, the second book, did the same thing. And so with color, pattern, and texture, we continue with that DNA. It is teaching you how to use color, pattern, and texture to tailor your home to reflect who you are, who you and your family are, and doing it in a way where it's easy to understand, it's bullet pointed. There's separate chapters for color, pattern, and texture, and after each one of those chapters are dictionaries that are visual dictionaries. So there's a color visual dictionary, for example, that has paint swatches that were picked by Sue Wadden, who's director of color at Sherwin-Williams. She has some kind of crazy like color accuracy measurement. She's like considered in the top 0.001% of people for color accuracy. So I just thought it would be fun to see what Sue would say if I gave her colors like chartreuse. Tell me, Sue, what paint chip do you equate with chartreuse? What paint chip do you equate with straw, with, you know, melon, with a bunch of these colors that, you know, are just kind of out there for discussion. So there's a color dictionary, there's a pattern dictionary after the pattern chapter that tells you what different patterns are, you know, I mean, all of you in this room probably know, but if somebody throws out the word damask, or if they throw out the word Suzanne, you know, a lot of people don't know, and so there's a little square that shows you that. And then same thing for the texture dictionary. There's an illustration of the difference between something that's hammered and something that's brushed, you know. So again, it's a book that's really intended to be full of information that can teach you how to really tailor your home to you using a designer's 3 most powerful tools. And then the back section, again, has projects with just lots of beautiful pictures. So if you get tired of learning, you can just flip through pretty images.
And the book is broken up into 6 chapters, but the first 3 are color, pattern, and texture. So we're going to dive into some color and splash things up a little bit. Sasha, it's not hard to tell that when we see a space by you that you love some color. Bold hues, eye-catching curations, just these 2 photos. How do you incorporate these 3 tools, the color, pattern, and texture, into livable spaces?
So for me, it usually starts with either a fabric swatch, or it starts with a wallpaper or a color that I love. So there's always like a starting point, and then I build upon that starting point. So for instance, the images that are up here, we had designed this vanity, and it is like this purple Calcutta marble, and it has this like, you know, this, it's called viola, has this like violet tone to it. So that was like our driving point. That's really what started off this bathroom. So then from there, I was like, okay, we need to find a wallpaper that has the touches on those purple tones. So we went with this Gucci Toile wallpaper. And then from there, the color came about. And that's how we built it. It's very simple. It kind of is like mathematical almost in a sense. With the other space, actually, my client already had these drapes and wallpaper up, and she had tried to do this apartment by herself. She didn't really want to hire a decorator. She wanted to do it on her own, and then it ended up kind of like being a disaster, and she was like, I need your help. And yes, I would have loved to start fresh, but she, her husband did not want her to start fresh. So I was like, okay, let's make use of what we have. We can make this work. The wallpaper, it's a textured kind of silk wallpaper, and it has a lot of different variations of colors in it. So I drew upon that paper, and we sourced the rug, which kind of brought that color down to the ground and created, again, that balance. And then did, it's mostly antique and vintage furniture in there, so all of the colors and patterns kind of work again with the same color tones and everything. And this particular client was Indian, so these colors really reflected her culture and where she's from, and we had a lot of fun with it. And it's fun because we have these 1920s Art Deco chairs, but then we put them with the Italian lucite tables, which are orange but have this green in it, and even though they're neon colors, you kind of see those faint colors in the wallpaper. Mm-hmm. So that's a good example of connecting dots through the space.
Do you think Vern, I'll ask you, do you think there's first of all, what's your favorite, your go-to color? And then what color do you think is underrated?
Oh, wow. Well, so, when you say go-to color, I don't have a go-to color for every project because, it's going to be different for everybody. You can make generalizations and say, for example, red tends to be an invigorating color, and it's a color that wakes you up. But that's not going to be true for everybody. There are some people who look at red and think, it puts me to sleep. So I think it's important to, really understand who you're working with. Me personally, I have always been, ever since I was a little kid, I have loved orange, in every possible shade. And, I thought I would grow out of it, but didn't happen.
Orange is also my favorite color.
Really?
Yeah, it used to be pink, and then I guess 5 years ago, it switched to orange.
That's so
I love
funny.
Orange.
Yeah, I mean, you don't hear too many people say
No,
that.
I know. I was on a panel last week at the New York Design Center, and with Nate Berkus, and he was like, I hate orange. And I was like, I hate gray. Oh. And then we were like, respect. We get it. But I love orange too. It's the color of the sunset. It's I love orange too.
Well, and it puts me in a good mood.
Me too.
It makes me happy.
Are we talking Hermes orange, or are we talking
I would say all shades
Yeah.
for me.
I'm a Florida State
Orange,
Seminole, so I hate
yeah.
orange. But I respect both
Yeah.
y'all's opinions. You like to challenge yourself. Tell us about this sensational monochromatic. I mean, blush, nude, that is my color palette all day, every day.
I would say always in any project, there is always some pink that's sprinkled in there somewhere. And pink used to be my favorite color. And then millennial pink happened, and I then was pink has gone too basic for me. I need to take a break from pink, and I went to orange. But there's still always pink in my life. But this room was inspired by J-Lo's Juicy Couture jumpsuit from the Y2K era.
Nice.
Yeah, so I just all of a sudden I was I need this Jenny from the Block room, so I found this bed, which is by the Campagna brothers, and it's this amazingly fun kind of monster fluffy bed, and the room revolved around that piece. And I did the lacquered pink, and then we did the Le Tigre rug, and the little Vanini Murano lamps, and I had to have these satiny sheets on the bed, and the nightstands are illuminated and they're mirrored, and it's just a very glamorous kind of very fashion, music driven, early 2000s looking room.
You can just see her
So,
dancing in there. music video.
Yeah.
We're going to switch to pattern. Vern, color, pattern, texture of the book, you dive into personalizing design. What's one unexpected lesson from the book that will surprise the readers, you think, the most?
What's a surprising lesson from the book for the readers?
That they'll be surprised to learn. You're like, the whole thing, just read it.
Yeah. No, I think for me, like, one of the things that I really wanted to impart is that if you're really wanting to have a successful home design, if you're really looking to bring color, pattern, and texture together confluently to reflect who you truly are, you have to have really honest conversations with yourself and also with the people that you're going to be sharing the spaces with. And I think so many of us have conditioned ourselves to think about who we are in a very specific way that society will accept. And that's fine because we all have to live in public. But when you get home, that's your space. That's your space to rejuvenate, to replenish yourself, and it should be tailored to who you truly are. To achieve that, you have to have real honesty about what it is that you like, to drop the shame and the embarrassment that, you like this color combination or this mixture of things or whatever, something that somebody says is going to be, of poor taste. You have to let that go and have that true, like, honest conversation with yourself and do some deep thinking and deep diving. And I think, that's the starting point for having something that's going to not only really nurture you and take care of you, but that's also going to endure. When you design for other people in your own private spaces, those designs don't last. That's why, like, after 4 or 5 years, somebody's like, oh, I'm tired of this room, I want to change it. When you really design for what you love and who you like, those rooms may not be static, but they'll just build. They'll grow just like you'll grow.
Oh, Sasha, pattern. You lean into it. You use a lot of patterns. Where does your design brilliance stem from when you pull all of these together? Like, I look at these and they're masterpieces, but I would never even imagine to put them together and make them look so good.
Yeah, so I think the thing with pattern and the way that you kind of play with pattern is that you can't have two patterns that are too similar because they fight with each other. So if you pick out kind of a floral and the floral has a lot of movement and maybe it's like kind of Indian inspired or Asian inspired or something, then that is going to pair really nicely with something more like stagnant and graphic, like a stripe or a plaid or a check. So it's like these juxtaposing patterns are going to work well together. And for instance, at my up on the screen, I had an installation at Art Basel, which is that big dome light that you see. That has a damask fabric. Wallpaper. It is like very European. The colors are pretty bold on it, but I paired it with a polka dot, which is like more graphic. So that's kind of how I blended those patterns together. And that's kind of how I work within a space. It's just, making sure things are not fighting and making sure that there's a nice marriage between all the patterns that you're using.
It's incredible. The staircase, insane. So design doesn't always have to come through with bold prints or colors. Vern, here you seamlessly mix old with new in subtle ways, but this room still makes a statement. It's impeccably designed. Can you share your approach to this project and how you layered in so many unique products in different textures, from the wall coverings to the stone fireplace and the juxtaposition of the antique versus some of the modern transitional pieces?
Yeah, so this is a living room for a really, really interesting couple. So they're both sort of high-level C-suite executives. He's Dutch, and she's she's Italian in her background, and they met in Paris, both working in Paris, and she sort of had this love affair with Paris and it's, you know, the beautiful antiques and all those kinds of things. So she sort of collected those things when she was there and they were dating. And he is just very like clean-lined, very Dutch in his perspective. Like, we had the most beautiful wood floors in this place, and he said, I can't see brown anywhere. The floors had to be completely ebony because any ounce of brown just threw him off. And so it was really like most things, finding, like I encourage people to always like look for the Venn diagram. You guys know what a Venn diagram is, right? The intersection where, you know, the circles of what one person likes and the other person likes, where's that intersection, and build upon that, because if you go with one direction or the other, it's never going to be successful. And one of the worst things that I can ever hear, and I used to hear this all the time at the beginning of Trading Spaces when we would interview these couples, you know, what do you want to see in the room? And the husband would always say, well, happy wife, happy life. And it's terrible because at the end of the day, he might say that and she might get her way, but the resentment slowly builds every morning when he wakes up in a pink bedroom with floral sheets. It's just like, why am I waking up in this bedroom? So I think it's really, really important for both people to be heard. And I think that previous slide was an example of the importance of texture. When you're really working with neutrals, when you're really working with a very, very tight color palette, and you're bringing sort of disparate elements together, like texture becomes really important. And as Sasha was saying earlier, it's important to kind of layer in the old with the new. Opposites really help the other shine. Smooth looks great against rough. And that wallpaper is one of my favorite. It's you know, you can get samples up at the Fabric Hut showroom. It's a shagreen wallpaper that we developed because, you know, I love shagreen, but it's so friggin' expensive. Like, it basically, you can buy like a little box and it's covered in shagreen. So we worked really, really hard. You know, I worked with that young lady over there, Millie Hammond. Raise your hand, Millie, because she's a genius. Millie has been my creative partner in developing all of these collections for Fabric Hut. And when I gave Millie this idea, you know, she immediately got real pieces of shagreen, and we worked with the factories to kind of give it that true pebbled texture. So it's not just visually there, it's the texture of it as well. And then we made it in a vinyl that's easy to wash and clean, and that's, you know, a lot more attainable than the real stuff. So for me, like, that's an example of like where texture really has to come to the forefront and play like an even more important role.
Gotcha. Both of these designers have collections with Fabric Hut, our showroom sponsor. So I kind of just want to take a quick little deep dive into their collections that they've done. Sasha, you describe your collection with Fabric Hut with S. Harris as fearless, powerful, elegant, and edgy, which is perfect for today. How did this collection come about for you with them?
So I previously had a very small collection with Vervain that included a fun take on a toile and a kind of other pattern called A Few of My Favorite Things that had all these graphics, and then we had like two solids, and then we decided to work on another collection. I moved to the S. Harris family, and the collection grew to be larger than the original collection, and it was very fashion inspired. So I kind of envisioned like, you know, like some 80s women like living in their Fifth Avenue apartments, and I thought about like the Swans of Fifth Avenue and Truman Capote. I was watching the TV show at the time, and I just thought about like this combination of luxury, but also with like this kind of like colorful fashion forward, you know, design. And I was looking at a bunch of runway shows. So we have like a few bouclés that are very like Coco Chanel inspired. We have a floral print that is kind of like Marc Jacobs' old collection for Louis Vuitton. We have like a classic kind of like plaid check, which is like very 80s, like maximalist. And we have another fabric called Buff Puff, which is almost like this kind of sheen, fluffy mohair, but it's not exactly mohair. So just a lot of like beautiful colors and textures and patterns that kind of blend and infuse all these things together.
It's beautiful. We'll get to see some of it upstairs.
Yes.
Vern, you have a couple collaborations with Fabricut, influenced by all your world travels, which there's a lot of. Your architectural background, but you really focus on livable luxury because you have 2 kids, 1,700 dogs. That is not an exaggeration, 1,700. Tell us why that is such a big focus for you when you're collaborating and curating these collections with Fabricut.
Yeah, she's right. I mean, we don't have quite 1,700 dogs, but it's not far off. My husband, Craig, who's back there, he owns a local company called Wag-A-Lot. I don't know how many Wag-A-Lot customers are in here, but, he's been in business for 25 plus years at this point. One of the first people to start doggy daycare, boarding, and grooming, and that's how we met. We met because I adopted 2 dogs from what was then a kill shelter, and Craig has worked hard with Lifeline to eliminate kill shelters in Atlanta. But I adopted these 2 dogs, and I really felt guilty about it because, like, I grew up with dogs my whole life.
And a parrot.
What's that?
And a parrot.
Oh, it was a robin. Oh, wow. That's why his name was Peter.
Details.
Yes. But, I adopted these 2 dogs, and the Atlanta Journal-Constitution was tipped off by the shelter that I was in there, and I had adopted dogs, and they said, hey, can you take a picture with your 2 adopted dogs to promote dog adoption? And I said, sure, but they've been in the shelter for like 13, 14 weeks at this point. They need to be groomed if they're going to have their picture taken for the paper. So I saw a huge billboard for my husband's company, Wag-A-Lot, and I went in, and it was just like the most beautiful, incredible, luxurious lobby. The dogs were running around and drinking out of waterfalls and having like ice cream sundaes. It was just sort of like fantastical. So my dog started using Wag-A-Lot, and that's eventually I met my husband at when I was dropping off the dogs at one of the stores, and he had 2 dogs, I had 2 dogs, and we literally moved in together 2 months after we met and became a family of 2 men and 4 dogs. And then we became 2 men, 4 dogs, and 2 kids. And then we became 2 men, 4 dogs, or 7 dogs and 2 kids. But
See, I was close. 7.
yeah, it's really hard to not adopt when there's so many like great dogs out there. So I encourage all of you to check out the dogs available for adoption. But for me, practical living has always been at the heart of what I do. Like I was saying earlier, I'm a problem solver. I like to, like for example, the shagreen wallpaper. Now everybody can have the look of shagreen, and it's wipeable and cleanable, and it's attainable. Because we do live with 2 teenagers and 7 dogs, and my husband loves red wine, we developed a whole line of like really wonderful performance fabrics. So it's always for me trying to give high-level design with ultimate practicality at the most attainable price point. I don't say affordable, I say attainable, because at the same time, like, I don't want to sacrifice quality and I don't want to sacrifice the design. But I do believe that things need to be, there needs to be an attainable level of things for people.
Yeah. I'm going to run through some of my favorite projects that I've found from you guys' websites, or you submitted to me, of your bold projects. I think bold, unapologetic, that's what we're all here for today, but you both are very authentic. Sasha, you like to approach design without limitations. This project, I'm absolutely obsessed with. I would never let my 6-year-old into this room. Let me be clear. All that white, I would love to have this room in my home, but that's maybe we can be wipeable. I don't know.
Performance fabric. You can
There
do
it
it,
is.
Jenna.
Oh, you've met him. He's wild. So authentic and approachable. I mean, this is a beautiful room, but I still feel it's so welcoming and serene. Quickly tell us just a little bit about this project that you loved and how it came, and the swinging. I want that.
So this was a project in Wellington for an equestrian family. It was their third home, and basically the project was really for the daughters who ride and who are competitive riders, and so we tried to basically Wellington. The interiors is very much like equestrian interiors, so you see a lot of Hermes orange, and you see a lot of horse photographs, and you see everything has a saddle or a horseshoe, and it's just very almost kitsch like that. So I tried to keep with an equestrian inspired design, but not have it feel like it was an equestrian home goods, So I did little accents of the orange, but I made it playful and fun and
Nailed it.
and a little bit different than what you normally would see in the estate section of Wellington.
Nice. Vern, this project, clearly dog friendly. You're not one to follow trends, usually you're the one setting them. This space to the left looks very approachable, but still very elevated. How do you bring the elevation, but still dog and kid friendly?
I mean, I think it's easier now than ever to access, and maybe not easier than ever to develop. And Millie, who I work with at Fabrica to kind of manifest ideas, knows this harder than anybody. She works so hard to make my crazy ideas come to life, because I think we have the technology now. We have the ability to have what we want visually and still have it fit within the way that we live our lives. Performance fabrics is just one example, but you can have quartz countertops now that have the look and feel of marble, but are antimicrobial and scratch resistant and heat resistant. We now have LED bulbs that have that warm glow of the incandescence that we all used to love, but now you're not spending every weekend changing your light bulbs. It's just, we have stain-resistant materials for carpets. So we have a lot of technology to really sort of now develop the full spectrum of what people want from a look and a feel standpoint. Think about how far performance fabrics have come. In the beginning, they all look like they were just sort of wrapped in cellophane. They, you could just hose them down. They were so uninviting. And now people don't hesitate to use indoor-outdoor fabrics indoor because they're just soft and comfortable and beautiful. We have a whole line of performance fabrics, for example, where, I went on, they wanted me to do this on live TV. I went on live with, at the time it was Kelly and Ryan. Now it's Kelly and Mark. But I was on live with Kelly and Ryan, that was Ryan Seacrest, demonstrating that I could get black Sharpie out of white performance fabric, and it was on live TV, and with just water and soap, and it came out. So it just tells you,
Dawn soap?
What's that?
What kind of soap?
Dish soap.
Dish soap, okay.
Dish soap and water. That's it. So we have the technology to produce beautiful things that people can live with now. And that's why we were saying earlier, you can have that white sofa, you can have that beautiful, elegant room, even if you have young kids, even if you live with 7 dogs and a husband who spills wine on the sofa. You can have those things.
Proud of you. Proud of you. Sasha, if you can sum up your design aesthetic in 3 words, what do you think that'd be?
I think it would be glamorous, unique, and fun. Oh, maybe whimsical, not
Okay,
fun.
4. Vern,
Okay.
3. Can you do 3?
3, oh my gosh. I always like to feel like there's a level of respectfulness. I would say respectful, livable, and I would say there's always like kind of a global aspect to it.
For anyone who loves the ideas and the bolds of all of these beautiful projects we've seen, but it's a little nervous to try it, what's the easiest entry point to elevate something to have boldness when they walk in to the room?
I would say the easiest way is just like, even it's like changing your bedding in your bedroom. Maybe like swapping out your like plain sheets for something embroidered, or maybe something with color, and then like in a living room, it's just maybe swap out your rug, like just something easy that's not like, that you don't have to stick with for a very long time. Like paint is kind of like a whole to-do, and so is wallpaper. So some like easy, quick fix like that.
Well, I'm going to wrap it up. At the end of the day, unapologetic design isn't about being loud for the sake of it. It's about creating a home that feels deeply personal and truly yours. I'm going to do a quick rapid fire, and we might take 1 or 2 questions. Color you'll never stop using. I think we all can answer that. Orange. Is it orange?
And pink.
And pink. Color you'll never stop using?
Yeah, I mean, personally, yes, I will never stop using orange.
Is there a current pattern or texture you're crushing on right now?
Yeah, you know, we came up with this beautiful new wallpaper based out of, it's the look of eel skin. I was in a restaurant in Amsterdam that had real eel skin wallpaper on the wall, and I was just so magical and so beautiful, but I kept thinking about all the poor eels that had to die for it. So we created a beautiful eel skin wallpaper that's just, you can see the ridges and the textures. It's just so elegant and so adaptable.
One design rule you love to break, Sasha?
I don't believe in design rules.
No rules, right?
Yeah.
There's no rules.
So I guess I'm breaking them all left and right.
Your favorite magazine publisher? I'm just kidding.
Oh, well, that's easy.
Dream celebrity that you want to do a room for?
Oh, for me, that's so easy. I am a huge tennis fan, and I worship at the altar of Roger Federer. I mean, that would be the ultimate for me. So.
How about you?
It's also really easy for me. It'd be Mariah Carey.
We did J-Lo, so Mariah Carey could be next.
Yeah, well, she'd be my number 1, yes.
Okay.
And Mario Buotta did her iconic apartment when she was in stilettos on her elliptical on MTV Cribs.
That's not how you work out, Sasha?
It is. So there's a lot of similarities between the two of us.
Obviously. I know we ran over. Do we have time for anyone have a question?
Why don't we take those questions
Oh,
upstairs?
upstairs.
We don't
Okay.
want to miss the party.
All right, one quick thing. When you guys walked into the room, we're going to go up, have a fabulous, bold reception and fabric cut upstairs on floor 3. But if you have a little gold star on the little things you were handed on the way in, Vern, up. You have gold star? Great. Everyone's obviously welcome to go upstairs and enjoy. But Vern has a few books that he's going to sign for our gold star.
Yes.
But also, for today only, you'll get 20% off. And we do, both of them are, we have not released everybody's. They're all featured, they're both featured in our current issue. So take your magazine up there. They're happy to sign it for you. But go upstairs, the fabric cut, and we'll have fun.
I want to say one or two quick things about the book. The book, Color, Pattern, Texture, is the publication date is October 14th, so it's available for pre-order now. You are the only people in the country. These are the only copies that are being released before October 14th. So I'm so happy that Jenna and Modern Luxury and ADAC were able to work with Fabricut in order to secure these books for you. I don't know that there's a free copy for every single person who showed up here today, which is why Jenna and Fabricut and ADAC created this opportunity for you to have a one-time discount code that's specifically for you folks to order the book. But I heavily depend on people ordering the book in order to make New York Times bestseller list. So order the book, please.
Thank you so much. That's so generous of you to have the copies because, again, they are not available. So this is a really special treat. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to Fabricut for making that happen and Modern Luxury for making that happen. Thank you to Sasha for being part of this panel. This was
you,
wonderful.
guys.
Let's go upstairs to 307 Fabricut.